So this panel, I think it's called Global India Dialogues, which we are launching today in Davos, in partnership with bunch of organizations here, including World Woman Foundation, US ISPF, and one more. But the purpose of this panel today is I want to talk to you a little bit, all of you, about how I got into venture capital, and share with you a little bit of my story, and then I can go around the esteemed panel. But I started out being a civil engineer and being a student of political science. I came to Stanford as a student, and I just want you to know that it is very, a lot of people asked me yesterday on some other panel, like, how did you get into venture capital? Were you planning for that? Did you get an MBA? And I want you to know that there was no such thing. I did not get an MBA. I did not plan on going into venture capital. But I saw opportunity, and I grabbed it. And I had to surmount fear in order to get to a place where and we're talking 1999, when some of you were not born, probably. But it was not easy, because I was the only woman, and especially a woman of color, in Palo Alto, California, entering the world of venture capital. It wasn't easy, I had to really steel myself even before going into board meetings. I would be wondering, what am I wearing? What am I saying? Are people judging me? There is the imposter syndrome, of course, that we all suffer from. So that said, I was, sitting at a conference with, somebody called Ron Conway. He was a very generous, angel investor in the Bay Area. We started talking along with my late husband, Rajiv Motwani. And, after we had a little bit of a pitch session with him, he set up a $20 million fund for us, which was called .edu Ventures. It was a small fund, but in Palo Alto in those days, when the internet was just birthing, it was a substantial fund, and we ended up investing in seed companies, investing in startups in the Bay Area. This is just before the internet bubble burst. But what I'm saying is that I don't want you guys, there's a room full of young women here. I don't want you to feel, in any way diffident that you may not have the right qualifications or the background. The way to really, get something going in the space that you love is to being in front of the right people and speaking about yourself, selling, what is your vision and why you are interested, doing it without any fear. So that said, I want you to know my name is Asha, Jadeja. I run a family foundation with my two daughters. It's called the Motwani Jadeja Foundation, mjf.world. It's based in Palo Alto, California. And we invest in social impact, women-led startups, but also in venture capital in startups run by women, but also run by, regular folks, okay? And so, and I must say that I'm, humbled to say that we've been wildly successful. And my companies have done very well. One of the first few startups that my husband and I invested in was called Google, when it was 3 people. And, and it has done very well. I'm now very much part of the Google ecosystem with Google Foundation and with Google Ventures, plus Google's AI fund, which is called Gradient Ventures, run by Anna Peterson, another unstoppable, entrepreneur. She's a Stanford PhD in computer science, and anyway, so that's where I'm coming from. And why am I launching this Global India Dialogues here? The reason I'm doing this here, the Global India Dialogues, is because I feel that for the first time in history, we have India coming out into the global arena in a strong sort of a way, which has never happened before. I think this is going to open unprecedented opportunities. Why? Because India is the average age of India right now. The median age in India is 28. It's a very young country with 1.4 billion population. You must, those of you who are interested in any business of any kind, you must stay involved with India. You must have a foot in the door. If nothing else, you should visit. And if nothing else, please email me at mjf.world. You'll find it, and we'll start putting pointers there. You must go there and plug into the Indian ecosystem, because it is a very significant chunk of the future. So in that regard, I'm going to start with this esteemed panel that I have here. I'm going to start with my friend Aparna Pande, who is a scholar, writer, author, Dr. Aparna Pande, who is at Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C., a thought leader, and has written several books on the emergence of India on the global stage. Aparna, tell us more about what is it about India, why is it that you've been writing these books, and why do you feel that there is an opportunity for global women to be part of this whole India story? It is a story that is taking off. It is no doubt in my mind a rocket ship. How is it that global young women can be part of this rocket ship?
Thank you. It's great to be in a room full of so many women, some of whom I believe are on my WhatsApp group. Really nice to meet all of you. Thank you very much to Rupa and Asha for inviting me to be on this panel. All of us have heard of India. Some of you may have visited India. That could be because you like Bollywood, you like Indian food, you have a doctor, a dentist, a professor who's Indian, or because it's the most populous country or the fastest growing economy. Almost every IT person will have a link to India. And so, all of you know about India, and one doesn't need to tell you. And yet, in many ways, India is a it's a 5,000-year-old civilization, so it's not new on the global stage. But the last decade or two, things have changed. India's economy has grown. India's foreign policy clout has grown. Part of it has to do with geopolitics. The rise of China and the fact that the US-led partnership and alliance wants to find a way to compete and push back against that. A large part of the world does not want to be part of either bloc. And that part of the world is primarily the former developing world or the global south, along with many other countries. And India is one of those leaders of that developing, non-aligned global south. And so India is important on geopolitical level. It's important for economic reasons. It's interesting, we are sitting in a room talking about India and women. And one of the interesting factoids is more women are studying in India than their male counterparts at every level. And yet, unfortunately, only 22% of Indian women are in the workforce. So to actually achieve this, India needs to bring more women, move it to about the 60%, which is the global average, if not more. And I'm sure many of you can help with that, especially with groups like the previous panels, women in tech, women in every other field and discipline. So I think that's the reason why India is important, and we're talking about it. Back to you, Asha.
Okay. Let me go next to my dear friend Zubaida Bai. She's the CEO of the Grameen Foundation. Many of you know the Grameen Bank, which has led the whole revolution in microfinance. It started in Bangladesh. Now Zubaida is running it. Zubaida, if you can please tell us a few words about yourself, about the Grameen Foundation, and what are you seeing, right, in terms of the coming out of Indian women in the workforce?
Great, thank you, Asha. Asha is very generous to call me a friend. I would look up to her as a mentor. So I'm Zubaida, as Asha introduced. I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, not a civil engineer, but really took my career off in terms of starting to work in agriculture in India at the last mile. And the big question for me at that point was, how do you develop agricultural products that women use? Like, why can't women interact with these huge machines? And why is it they're not designed for women? The interest shifted from there to healthcare. Again, healthcare products, you would go to any part of India. I started traveling to Africa. Many healthcare equipment were just lying there because the nurses didn't know how to use it, and it wasn't designed for a woman to use. So that became the start of my career. Really then, as an engineer, saw that issue and started investing in high-impact technologies that would go to market. Then built a company to take those products to market in women's reproductive health, focused on maternal and newborn care, and started developing technologies that would go to the market. Now, really, I was, I met Asha during that time as an entrepreneur, and Two big things I would like to note. One is that as an entrepreneur, my role was to build systems around the company, then build the company itself. So as I was fighting the systems in terms of how do we get products for women out, it became evident that I needed to talk to governments, I needed to talk to policymakers, I needed to talk to private sector in terms of making this company successful. So today I lead Grameen Foundation. So if you are wondering how come a mechanical engineer to leading the world's, one of the world's largest nonprofit, it is because engineers are problem solvers. And really nonprofits need to think about how do you change systems. And very specifically at core of Grameen, following on Aparna, is we are all about transforming systems for women. And what do we mean? By that we mean women are less in the workforce. Why does it happen? Is it because women don't want to be there? No, because there's inherently biases in cultural systems globally. So we have offices in India, Ghana, Uganda, Philippines. We have we all work in about 14 countries. Every single country, we're seeing that you can bring a woman out and train her to be an entrepreneur, put her in the workforce, but really we start with what we call the household dialogues. How do you dismantle gender at the household level? Because when she steps out, she isn't burdened with additional care. She has a family that supports her. She's not going to be the first to leave the workforce, right? So really at the core of our work is about how do you dismantle gender at the household level, and how do you create community agents that keep that system alive? On the other end of the spectrum, we could be the founders of microfinance, but really microfinance has become an institution where over the last 3 decades, the interest rates to women never go down, right? So as a man, you can take money to gamble, default your loan, you will get another loan. But as a woman, you can take money and return it. We boast 98% repayment rate, but the interest rates never, ever go down. How do you fix that system that you were kind of responsible to create? So we work with financial institutions to say we've de-risked this woman. Her personal life is de-risked. Her professional life is de-risked. We will back the loan, and now you trust this woman and give her a faster loan at a lower interest rate and make sure this woman remains in the workforce with support of everybody from her family and community. That's what we mean systems transformation, which is we start from the household, go all the way, and really solving the deep ingrained gender issues in the world is what I do as an engineer today.
Thank you. I can keep myself. Why don't we have Aditi from Google tell us a little bit about what are you seeing? Are you seeing changes at a corporate level, Aditi, in the Google ecosystem? Yeah. What are you seeing, and are you hopeful that this is likely to accelerate? Right?
Yeah, love that question. So.
Sorry,
I'll kind of summarize it for you all. So thank you so much for having me. So my name is Aditi Joshi. I was born in India, but grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I currently work for Google. I have my undergrad in Yale, and I studied cognitive neuroscience, which is what deep learning is essentially embedded in. It's like an offshoot of that. And then I went to Stanford to do my graduate degree. I had the pleasure of sitting in on Rajiv's classes at Stanford. And at Google, what I focus on is core machine learning infrastructure. So I used to be in cybersecurity, focusing on AI initiatives at Google around our security and privacy engineering practices. And I have moved over to really focus on cloud AI, core machine learning in particular. So building out that ecosystem between NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, Meta, Anthropic, all Hugging Face, all the big machine learning players right now in the space. So I invite all of you to join that. We have monthly community meetings that we host. Everything is online, available on YouTube. I'll be having a series of community meetings as well. I'd love to see more women there, but it really works in that middleware just to make sure that your model development and deployment and production is as efficient as possible. So the more women there, as much that we can see, the better it is. I also work for, help out with Google for Startups program in cloud. I'm a mentor for Techstars Miami. And also, if you all don't know, Google has a lot of accelerators specifically for women. So I encourage all of you to apply to them. Google takes 0% equity. You are offered cloud credits as well as 12 weeks of mentorship with all of the Google engineers and different orgs within Google to get to where you need to go. And again, that's 0% equity. So if you want to find out more information about that, reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I can definitely send you the application process and kind of walk you through that as well. I think that's like something really important. What I've seen when I'm mentoring women, especially at Techstars, they are not as confident as they should be, right? They don't advocate for themselves. So I think, Asha, I think something that you said that's so important is advocate for yourself. You have an unbelievable product, and something that you see with women too, they repay all of their loans. And yet, no one necessarily knows. Because if you're not your advocate, you can't really expect other people to do that for you. So that's the first part. So what we've done, even at Google, in cloud, at security and privacy engineering, we have a program called Security Voices, where we highlight the women that are security engineers, because there's so few women in security engineering, even at Google, when we have such a proactive program to really go out there and recruit. So if you do have a background in engineering, reach out to me, and I can help you kind of navigate that as well. I don't want to take up too much time, but let me know what else you want me to cover.
I will come back to you in a few minutes, but Seema, tell us a little bit about your own journey with Ove Capital.
Thank you so much. So my name is Seema Chaturvedi. I'm founder, managing partner of India's leading venture fund, is what we've been told, so we accept it willingly. Why not? So here's the headline. I've done the fastest growing economy in the world is not a country. It is women. And I build on the lady in the previous session. So for those of us who are investors, always looking for that value that we can invest in, it is staring at us in the face, and people are not recognizing it. So I've been somebody who's done this for, let's call it 25 plus years. It's closer to 30, but let's call it 25 years. So I've worked in India, I've worked in US, and I was doing a lot of investing with the likes of Morgan Stanley, Shearson Lehman, etc. What I realized was that people were taking, including myself, we were not recognizing the business case of investing in women. And we still aren't, because as most of you would know, less than 2% venture funding goes into women. What's making it worse is the fact that there's a deeply correlated aspect, which is that less than 10% of fund managers are women. Now, I operate at the early stage of a company's life cycle. So our fund stands for Achieving Women Equity. It is right there in our name. There is such an interesting confluence of factors in the world today that is making this the most robust investment thesis. And I say that not just from a financial returns standpoint, but I also say that from a sustainable and scalable impact standpoint. What is the biggest issue facing humanity today? It's climate change. I get told so many times, and I'm fundraising too, oh, but Seema, we have a more important, urgent issue at hand. It's climate change, and we have to address that. And I've gone blue in my face saying, folks, understand who is the adopter of solutions? Who is the primary caregiver? Who is that one person, that set of people who will make those solutions sticky? So, I say this often, climate change is a symptom of the most base inequities that has been pervasive over the decades, right? Which is gender equity. So if we fix that underlying issue, we are fixing the symptom. We cannot fix only the symptom. So from our standpoint, and being mindful of time, we invest in climate with a focus on gender equity, because that results in sustainable change. And we are actively investing in pre-Series A, Series A, in climate, health, agri, fintech, edtech. And I'd love to chat with all of you who are looking to further this cause.
One second. I'm going to give everybody a second, just last line. Okay, if you had to give one line to this really enterprising young women in the room, what would that be? So I'll start with me. Visit Bangalore. Look out for an interesting startup. They need people like you. Because what's missing in India, there is fantastic technology talent. What we don't have, marketing talent. What we don't have, people who can be the front face and who can do the, the selling and the corporate communication. One line.
Believe in yourself. Don't let anybody tell you you can't become what you want to.
Let's collectively invest in the power of women.
And dare to dream. It's okay to dream big.
Last line by you, Seema. Let's make capital allocation towards women.